And this was the scene just last hour in Glendale, Arizona, where Donald Trump is holding a rally tonight. He was joined on stage by independent U.S. presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Kennedy announced he's suspending his campaign, putting his support behind Donald Trump. He explained his reasoning for suspending the campaign earlier today.
The chronic disease crisis was one of the primary reasons for my running for president, along with ending censorship in the Ukraine war. It's the reason I've made the heart-wrenching decision to suspend my campaign and to support President Trump. This decision is agonizing for me because of the difficulties it causes my wife and my children and my friends. But I have the certainty that this is what I've meant to do. And that certainty gives me internal peace, even in storms.
So how might RFK Jr.'s endorsement affect Trump in the polls? Will it? Joining us now to discuss is John Zogby in Utica, New York. John is a pollster and the author of Beyond the Horse Race, How to Read Polls and Why. And that comes out just next Tuesday. So congratulations on that, John. Good to talk to you.
Thank you, Sarah.
So what do you make of this? I mean, there was a lot of speculation that this was going to happen, that was possibly going to happen today, and in fact it did. Are you seeing, or do you expect to see any kind of change in the polls based on this endorsement?
Well, I expect to see changes in the polls anyway, back to equilibrium. You know, to be honest, Kamala Harris has had a very good month, but at some point, you know, the two major candidates are going to be bashing each other's brains in, and structurally, it's a very, very tight race between the two, which means then that even though RFK Jr. was polling maybe 5-6% most recently in the polls, we did see him taking slightly more away from Trump than from Harris. And so what's interesting is that if he can bring some of his supporters over, then especially in some key battleground states that are very, very close, anything that can, you know, make a difference in hundreds or even low thousands of votes from one candidate to another can loom very, very large and win that state for Trump.
I was going to ask you, I mean, who is the average RFK Jr. voter? It was sort of, I feel like it's a little bit extraordinary to see a Kennedy on stage and a Republican candidate for president. So who is likely to have been voting for RFK Jr.?
Okay, so there are, you know, among the 1/3 or so who we call anti-vaxxers or vaccine skeptics. They're a mix of people. They're younger parents. Some of them tilt not conservative but libertarian. At the same time, there are those who love the Kennedy legacy of his uncle JFK, his father, his other uncle Ted Kennedy, and are very liberal. There are environmentalists. He has a phenomenal record, whether anyone agrees with him or disagrees with him, but he has a wonderful record as an environmental lawyer and someone who's battled for climate change over the years. So it's an eclectic group. But I will say this. He had been doing quite well among independents, those not registered to vote with any party. And also he'd been doing well on the youngest end of the spectrum, Gen Z, 18 to 27-year-olds, some who in fact may not have voted, and now that he's endorsed Donald Trump, may not vote in November.
But those are the voters, I think, that both sides desperately want, those young voters and those who are at the moment undecided. And I hear what you're saying about possibly it will benefit Trump. Might it also, though, benefit Kamala Harris? Because when we talk, as you say, there are some who are those who just love the Kennedy family, who might now be in the mix but couldn't see themselves voting Republican.
Boy, that's a tough one. We did see him taking some votes away from, well, Joe Biden and then more recently Kamala Harris. But if he takes young voters away from Kamala Harris, whether they vote for Trump or don't vote at all. That hurts Harris. It's hard to see how this helps Kamala Harris.
Does this announcement today, does it mute all of the excitement that we've just seen coming off the DNC?
That's a strong word. I don't think so, because Bobby Kennedy had sunk in the polls. At one point we had him at 21%, and now, at 5 or 6%. So it's I think a testimonial to the fact that this is the first stage of what we're going to see to try to mute the impact of the Democratic convention. And look out, there's more to come, I'm sure.
It's not a huge amount of voters that we're really talking about here, but as you say, in a swing state, in this election, every vote really does count. So if you were advising either the Democrats or the Republicans how to court a former RFK Jr. voter, what do you think they need to do?
Well, I think they need to pound heavy on the environment, and this is now just to go after those young people. The Democrats absolutely need every young voter they can get. Since Kamala Harris entered the race, she's been bringing the 18 to 30-year-olds back into the fold of the Democratic Party, that Obama and 2020 Biden coalition, but she's not quite there yet. And so she has to hammer on that issue and on frankly, the issue of Gaza as well, because that is an issue that really tugs at the heartstrings of younger voters.
John, before I let you go, I have to ask you, I don't envy your job in a race like this. How difficult is it to assess what's happening, assess where voters are in a campaign where things are changing so quickly and so dramatically?
That's why we're constantly polling, because we're taking snapshots, and we're getting a snapshot of a moment in time that is not a predictive tool. That's what I think your audience needs to understand. Come out with a poll today, and Kamala Harris is ahead by 4 points. That does not translate into a victory on November 5th. So we keep polling, which I might add is very good for the economy of the Zogby family.
Well, this is a campaign for your family for sure. You should do very well, I would think. That's pollster John Zogby joining us from Utica, New York. Thanks for joining us.
Bye-bye now.